Several TNA wrestlers worked a benefit event for Sabu on December 12th in Detroit, Michigan. TNA agent Scott D'Amore put the show together and lined up the 600-seat building. The show was sold out and the wrestlers were under the impression that a large number of fans were turned away at the door. Shane Douglas pinned Raven in the main event with Mick Foley as the special referee.
Damn, do we have to watch this show? Do we have to track down footage of this show?
I'm not sure, is it available? I didn't even check.
Is this TNA adjacent?
The wrestlers who worked the benefit were not paid. Most sold pictures during the intermission and donated their profits to Sabu. Some of the wrestlers were forced to pull some money out of their picture sales to cover the travel expenses. Originally, the word was that TNA was going to cover the transportation costs, but that did not turn out to be the case.
This will bankrupt us, no.
Sabu is still recovering from an illness. He is planning to return to the ring once he's healthy, but sources are under the impression that he will be sidelined for a few more months. From Sabu in an interview at Wrestling Shoot Interviews, he says he was in Puerto Rico and he bought some steroids, took them home, gave myself a couple shots and it was contaminated and I didn't know it. It was because of the steroids that made me sick. It was because the bottle was contaminated with bacteria, so it made me sick and brought me close to death.
Steroids are really working their way through the TNA roster at the moment.
Yeah, a real steroid company right now.
The only one.
I did see the clip of Nash on Fox News after Benoit talking about steroids, and the host is like, so you say you've never seen roid rage? That doesn't seem likely to me. And Nash is like, bitch, doesn't use bitch, but listen here.
So he goes, super cracker.
Have you ever used steroids? And she's like, no. It's like, I have, and I've never seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like, I don't, maybe like is not the word, but it's interesting that with the whole Benoit thing, there was so much oh, this is steroid, blah, blah, blah. When it's maybe it was the concussive headshots and severe mental illness.
Yeah, it's a lot more likely to be consistent head trauma than steroids. But
roid rage is such a stupid throw a random thing at the wall as a justification thing. You know what I mean? It's a very silly thing to blame it on.
Yeah, it's unlike Fox News to be sensationalist.
Listen, I think Fox News has had the best year of their career this year. I think they.
ROH announced that AJ Styles will be making his return to Ring of Honor for the first time in a year on their February 25th event in Dayton, Ohio. He'll face Jimmy Rave, billed as his former protege. Styles was banned by TNA from working ROH early this year, ostensibly because of the controversy caused by the Rob Feinstein situation.
Oh, what was that, Garrett?
There's a YouTube video. Go Google Rob Feinstein TNA. You'll find our YouTube video. With fewer dates being offered to talent by TNA recently, it has become more difficult to justify their policy preventing certain wrestlers from working Ring of Honor. So that policy is out the window.
Yeah, well, they need to get paid.
There was also a story this month of Jeff Jarrett taking a picture with Rob Feinstein at an indie.
Ooh.
And there was a bunch of people who were speculating that Rob Feinstein was going to be their promoter for live events, and that this was actually the
Excuse me, that is Jeff Jarrett's job.
Yeah, well, it is now, and it was the hypocrisy of TNA to demand such things of Ring of Honor. And Jarrett said I didn't even know who he was.
That's 100% what I was gonna say. There's no way Jeff had a clue who that fucker was.
And apparently, according to the person who took the photo, Jarrett in fact did not know who he was, and I completely believe that Jeff Jarrett had no idea who Rob Feinstein was.
You didn't even need to say it, and I knew that's what it was. He thought it was just some fucking mark.
He was just at an indie and some dude took a photo, and everyone's like, whoa, it's a thing! And Jarrett's like, I don't know who the fuck that guy is.
Yeah, 100%.
I do find it quite funny though they made such a big deal about the Feinstein thing and they couldn't pick him out of a lineup, which again I honestly 100% believe they could not pick him out of a lineup. But
and also I think that's fair as well.
And based on his behavior, he probably is in a lineup, but that's neither here nor there.
No. He's running shoot interviews.
Ugh.
But yeah, 100%. I don't think you need to know what the dude looks like to not want to do business with them. You know what I mean? That's fine.
Jeff Hardy showed up roughly 30 minutes before the December 21 tapings were set to begin. Management was finally pushed to the point that they decided to send Hardy home rather than use him on the show. In comparison, Scott Hall arrived at the show more than 6 hours in advance, and Kevin Nash got there about 4 hours before the taping started at 6:30 p.m.
when Scott Hall is out professionalizing you.
Yeah.
He may have to readdress some things.
Because I'd imagine call time for these shows is probably like 1-ish, maybe 2. But it's usually 1-ish. And Jeff Hardy is thoroughly not meeting call time.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy's New Year's resolution was be on time for work. So far, so good. As Tuesday, he showed up for earlier than ever for the TNA tapings. There before catering. His timeliness may not last long, as he was expressing frustration with being there for 6 hours with nothing to do. He described the atmosphere as prison-like, uttering, "They won't even let you leave. You have to go to work and stay at work. God forbid."
Yeah, but if you leave, Jeff, there's a good chance you won't come back. So, alternatively, they should set up an Xbox and just put it in the middle of the arena and be like, go away, kids.
Bless Jeff Hardy and his free spirit mentality.
I mean, I get it.
Of, they make me come to work and stay at work until work is over.
Oh no, I have to sit around and eat catering and nap.
Maybe shoot a pre-tape.
And get paid $1,000.
Yeah, probably more than 1,000.
Sorry, I was giving him Abyss numbers.
Amazing Red's TNA contract expired and he's not expected to be brought back as a regular. Dusty Rhodes and Terry Taylor are not high on Red at all with their thoughts that he doesn't project a personality, and since his knee problems, he hasn't been able to make up for that inside the ring. And it really crushes me to be like, yeah, they're right.
Yeah, they are. The thing is, though, Red does bounce back eventually, which is nice.
And bounces back in TNA as well. He has a nice little run in 09.
Yeah, but he's not the guy he was at the start.
He's just not. And we've been talking about it every time we saw him in 04, that after he came back from that knee injury, he just wasn't the same. He just didn't have the same oomph to him. He didn't have the same snap to him. He's just a guy in the X Division, and he does not feel like he should be anything else. And I think Dusty Rhodes and Terry Taylor's assessment of him at this stage is very fair. And it upsets me to say that about Amazing Red.
If I am them, I probably make the same call at this point.
There's a point in 0203 where like, this is your Rey Mysterio, and this is not that same wrestler.
No, yeah, that's what happens. You break down. Sometimes you just break it down, and sometimes you're very lucky, and you're like a Will Ospreay, and you're a Gumby man, and eventually you can slow down in your own way without being hurt a bunch. But that doesn't happen for most high flyers.
You have to adapt, or you just collapse into a tiny pool of pieces of body parts.
Graphic.
TNA Impact on December 3rd, the show that was headlined by the Jarrett Monty Brown title match, did a .32 rating, which is the company's second highest number in history, and surely a morale booster, according to Dave and the Wrestling Observer.
Is that the demo?
No, that's just the regular number.
What the hell? I only care about the demo.
And it is believed that Turning Point did between 25,000 and 30,000 pay-per-view buys. The drop was a little less than the 25% estimated, possibly because the replay showings, for obvious reasons, got word out that the show was good and did better than expected.
Claudio muttered.
God damn these pay-per-views. Jericho and Claudio have nothing on Triple
No, Jericho, I only said Claudio. That was the joke. I didn't use your name, of course. I would never use your name disparagingly.
Even though Fox Sports had apparently told Dixie Carter that the show on the December 31st would be preempted, which they did announce in the show. They're like, we will not be broadcasting December 31st. It'll be on January 4th instead. It turned out it aired in most of the country on December 31st.
Oh, thank you. That was, well, you know what? They didn't want to run against Wrestle Kingdom.
It was actually college football that they thought they were moving for, but sure. The announced January 4th airing of the show was only on in maybe a half dozen stations, mostly on the West Coast.
Oh no, Garrett. There wasn't even a Wrestle Kingdom in 2005.
Well, there would have been a January 4th show.
Yes, there was Tokyo Festival Wrestling World 2005, but, you know. Can you recite to me the main event of that show?
It was Satoshi Kojima versus Yuji Nagata.
Well, you're wrong.
Oh no, how could I have predicted being wrong?
Garrett, it was obviously Shinsuke Nakamura versus Hiroshi Tanahashi.
No ideas already, run out of them. That was their first match, wasn't it? But still, out of ideas.
That was for the IWGP U30 title.
Which we will see in TNA.
See? Look at us.
There you go. Everything comes back to TNA in the end.
You know who else was on this show, Garrett?
Who?
Manabu Nakanishi. And if you want to hear more about Manabu Nakanishi, you can go to tnachat.com and listen to Rain Takers, our series covering 2012 New Japan. And we're heading into Wrestle Kingdom, which was January 4th, which was meant to be preempted for TNA in 2005.
Brought it all back. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
So it does speak to a little of the disorganization between TNA and FSN. They're like, you're going to be preempted. They're like, cool, we'll announce that. Turns out you weren't preempted. It's like, oh, okay.
Just show us twice.
Bill Behrens, who worked backstage at the TV tapings, was told a few days ago after the tapings he was being let go. This came after Behrens took a meeting in Stamford to discuss helping with WWE's proposed new Atlanta developmental system. While Behrens is believed to have not accepted the offer at the meeting, even before the meeting, at the tapings the vibe was that he wasn't going to be around much longer as he was negotiating business with the enemy. Which, I was like, in the Abyss situation, it's like, it's bullshit. Here it's like, yeah, it's fair enough that you want to boot the guy out the door who's potentially launching the WWE developmental system.
Yeah, where he could be talking to a bunch of young talent with contracts coming up or, anything like that.
That is one of the instances where it's perfectly fair and rational to be like, even if he said no, the fact that he took the meeting reduces the amount of trust we can have in him.
Yeah.
Johnny Swigger asked for his release on the 1st of January, but at press time had not heard anything back from anybody in the promotion. His contract calls for a nightly paid deal, and since he's only been used sparingly over the past few months, he hasn't made much. He has to either be used full-time or let out of his contract. Rhodes told him on December 20th that he was going to break up the NYC and push him, but then he immediately lost to Dustin the next night, so figured the writing was on the wall. He has 15 dates left in his contract.
WWE won't talk to him until they see a letter that officially releases him from his contract, a stance that they would continue to observe for the rest of time.
Yes, they would never tamper with contracts. That's never a thing WWE would do.
No.
And one of my favorite things Dave used to do but doesn't do anymore is just expose how much people are being paid.
Which, by the way, is not like a hard thing to find out.
The top paid wrestlers in the company at the moment are DDP, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, all of whom are making $5,000 per show. Most in the company are making between $300 and $1,000, with a few of the bigger names, Raven, Rhodes, AMW, making more than $1,000 per appearance.
Probably Jeff Hardy.
I'd imagine Jeff Hardy's in that group too, yes. Probably Styles as well, I would hope. And Jarrett is making significantly more, and he's probably the highest paid in the company, given he's part owner, world champion, and makes a lot of the business decisions.
Yeah, if I was the owner and made a bunch of business decisions, that would pay me a lot too.
I'd deserve it. I'd earn it.
Yeah. Look at me, I'm world champion. I'm putting all this effort in. I'm getting Monty Brown over at the pay-per-view.
You're over, yeah.